Hey guys, welcome back to another impressions video. This time for one of the games I beat lately, and that game is Kirby Star Allies for the Nintendo Switch. I'm trying to get out of my gaming funk here, and I figured shorter games would do it, and in a way it did, but in a different way. I also been playing this game for a long time. Like even though it's a short game, you can beat this game in like five to 6 hours, or maybe 4 to 6 hours, depending on how much you rush through the game. Even then, it took me a while. It took me a couple of weeks to finally beat the game, but very, very happy to have done this because this is another Nintendo Switch exclusive game. And of course, it follows the line of your typical Kirby games in the sense that they are, for the most part, short and very simple to play, but nevertheless, they're also very fun. With that being said, I do have to say that Kirby Star Allies, as far as the impressions videos that I made in the past, in which I went into detail for Kirby Triple Deluxe and Planet Robobot for the Nintendo 3DS. Those are kind of like the three latest mainline Kirby games that were released. I have to say that out of the three last games that I mentioned, Star Allies is probably the weakest. And it's weird because the concept actually is very, in my opinion, is very good. There's a lot of push towards playing this game in a co-op type of way, a local co-op only. Unfortunately, there's no online co-op available for this game. But if you can get friends, this is one like the perfect couch co-op game. And fortunately, the AI in this game does a pretty good job, and I'm saying that because this game has a very heavy focus on having partners, and in this case the AI is pretty helpful. They help you a lot. So with that being said, let's just talk about the gameplay. Let's start talking about the elements of this game. And the gameplay in Star Allies revolves around I guess befriending the enemies, whereas in previous Kirby games you can basically eat up their powers and use the enemy powers, which you can still do that with Kirby. But in this game, you can befriend enemies and have them join your team basically. And you can have up to three enemies that to join you, and it's pretty cool because they all have different attacks. If there's a fire type of enemy, he's gonna have a fire move set. And then you can have a pretty varied team assembled, with characters with different elements. They have wind, earth. They have the sword type of enemies. They have water type of enemies, ice, fire. So different types of elements that play a key role because the game does have a lot of like secret rooms and a lot of puzzles that are to be solved. And these are the areas that I think that the game faults a little bit, because a lot of the puzzles in this game are very are pretty much given. And what I mean by that is, once you enter the puzzle room, typically they give you the exact type of element that you will need to solve that particular puzzle. In a way, that's helpful because there are so many types of different enemies that you can have in your team. There's so many types of elements that you can have in your team that'll be very sometimes difficult to coordinate in order to have the right type of elements to solve the puzzles. But unfortunately, because they're given to you right there and there, it's a little bit on the easy side. Not only on the easy side, but on the boring side, because basically what they give you is what you need. And then you transform your allies into the elements you need, and then you use that to solve the puzzle. So for instance, sometimes you have to combine let's say wind and fire in order to create like a fire tornado, and that fire tornado lights up a rope, and the rope goes to a bomb, and the bomb explodes, and then that's how you get into a secret room, or that's how you get your treasure chest or your prize or whatnot. So a lot of the things in this game are unfortunately given, and in my opinion, it would have been better if this game followed somewhat the format. I don't know if you guys ever played for example, the Lost Vikings games back for the Super Nintendo and the PlayStation 1, I had a lot of fond memories. But in those games, you were able to switch your characters, and each character had a ability, and that's how you solve the puzzles. So in this game, it would have been nice for you to control maybe only one character, Kirby, and then just flip through all the different types of elements, or maybe have the computer flip through different types. That way, you are required to think a little bit more and try to put the pieces together in order to solve a puzzle. I don't know if I made out my point, but basically, yes, the game is very easy, and that unfortunately hurts a little bit in terms of the enjoyment. But moving on from the gameplay a little bit, going back to the main elements of the game, the graphics are very nice. This is probably the best looking Kirby game up to date. Obviously, the Nintendo Switch is the latest hardware from Nintendo, and it does a very good job. Then again, this game is not very taxing on the system itself, but it does a good job in handling four characters on screen, plus all the enemies, plus all the light effects. The different effects that you have when performing fights, when using your different elements and whatnot. So the game does a pretty good job. Personally, I didn't see any frame drops or anything like that. So a pretty good job in terms of graphics and performance for this type of game. The story, obviously, it's a Kirby game. It's going to have a simple story. I did enjoy the story in the sense that I enjoyed the villains, the bad guys, the bad characters in this game. Basically, the game is about like this dark wizard that basically possesses all the creatures in Dreamland to become like bad. But Kirby does gain the ability to befriend the enemies. So that's how you use your star or your heart power, I guess. When you push the X button, you throw hearts, and then you turn bad enemies into your own ally. So in that regard, the story is pretty simple. You just have to figure out who this dark wizard is, and you have to obviously stop him. And without spoiling too much, I really enjoyed the boss fight. The final boss fight in this game was pretty epic. Similar to I think Planet Robobot, that had a very pronounced and long boss fight. This game also does something similar in that regard. So very satisfying final boss battle, and even more satisfying is the content after the game. Again, this is a very short single player main story type of game, but the game does give you a couple of mini games. I think there's a baseball mini game and a wood chopping type of mini game that are pretty fun, pretty simple to pick up and play. But I think the beauty of the post-game content is that there are some main modes that actually take a while to beat. There's one where you have to gather different stars, and I think there's 5 different worlds or levels. So it does take a while for some of the post-game content, and it's not only one game mode that gets unlocked. I think it's three or four brand new game modes that the game gives you. And again, a lot of people complain how short these games are, but sometimes I wonder if reviewers actually take the time to fully complete the game. All the side content, all the mini games and whatnot. I think even then the game is still short, but I think all in all, if you play all the different game modes and all the different mini games and whatnot, the game will probably end up giving you more than 10 hours of gameplay time. Even close to 15 if you're a completionist and you want to collect everything. This game obviously has collectibles, similar to the Nintendo 3DS. I forgot the name of it, but the puzzle pieces that you have to complete. It's a little bit random. At the end of each level, you get puzzle pieces, and you have different boards that you can complete. And unfortunately, it's randomized, so the only way to basically complete this is to keep playing the game over and over again. Again, the game it's fun, but it's far from being, in my opinion, the best Kirby game. And again, the gameplay, very nice ideas, trying to use the ally system to befriend the enemies, but at the same time that ends up hurting in other departments, such as solving the puzzles and whatnot. So overall, the game is pretty easy, fairly short, but it's a very nice experience. Perhaps not worth the full $60. So you guys can probably do what I did, just wait for a price drop or a sale, which is a little bit rare on Nintendo games, but they do happen, and I think that's when you should grab this game if you can find it for around $30. I think there's enough content and enough gameplay fun, and it's a good game if you guys are parents or if you guys have younger brothers, sisters, nephews, whatnot. I think it's a fun game to play with the little ones. I know my little niece and I played a little bit of this game together, and we had a lot of fun playing it. Lastly, one thing that I really enjoyed was also the extra content provided by Nintendo, sort of like DLC but free. You can use different, you can use allies from previous games, like the hamster from Kirby Dream Land, or for example some characters from Kirby 64, also some characters from even Planet Robot, some good allies, and some bad guys. You can also have them in as part of your team. King DDD, Meta Knight, and some villains from previous games can also be part of your team. So it was pretty fun, kind of like assembling your team, because you can choose these guys. And like I said, it was pretty fun trying to having on your team, on your same team, King DDD, and then the girl from Kirby 64, and then Meta Knight, and different characters. And these are characters that were released periodically from Nintendo. So I think it's a good way in order to kind of like give you an excuse to go back to the game after a certain period of time. By now, I think the game is already the game has released all of the characters, so there won't be any more new ones. But overall, Kirby Star Allies, a very fun game. Far from being the best Kirby game, but again, if you guys can find this game on a sale or on clearance, I certainly recommend it to have it as part of your Nintendo Switch exclusive games library. So that's it for now. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching, and I will see you all later.